Hello, welcome back to another episode of The Wall of Unusual. I'm your host, Chris, the Keeper of the Unusual, and thanks for joining me. Now, I would like to welcome you to my very first UFO episode. I'm actually kind of excited to cover this subject. Now, this is going to be different episodes from my previous episodes that I have on. The first half will be me talking about the main subject, which is Dulce Base and Thomas Costello, quote-unquote security guard, whistleblower, that said, oh, he's seen aliens, worked with aliens at this base, and he came out with a paper which I can't find. Then the second half of this episode, I'll be having a guest co-host join me, which is Kristen from the ParanormGirl podcast. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And we'll just be chatting a bit about this subject and also about the whole UFO thing in general. So let's get into this. Now, for those of you who don't know, Thomas Costello claimed he was a security guard at Dulce Base. He claimed that he's talked to aka reptilians and greys, and they had a hierarchy, and he experienced a whole bunch of crazy stuff working this base. Now, according to Thomas Costello, the hierarchy goes that you have the reptilians, which are the main aliens that work alongside humans within this underground base, and then you have the greys that are the worker, quote-unquote worker class, that work underneath them. They're responsible for preparing the reptilians' food, for doing, I guess, like being an assistant for the reptilians, according to Thomas. And there was a rule within Dulce Base. Humans can talk to humans, aliens can talk to aliens. The only way that a human and alien could talk was only for professional purposes, meaning if they were in a lab or something, they were allowed to talk to each other, because you might cause a galactic incident, according to some, that if you misspoke towards a reptilian, they might say, okay, well, we're going to invade you now. So that was the hierarchy. Within this base, there was a train that actually led from, I believe, Los Alamos to this base Dulce, I think. There was a special pass you needed. The elevators never went up and down. They went from side to side, floor to floor, and there were certain floors you weren't allowed to go to. When you entered the base, according to Thomas, you were given a gray jumpsuit and a new identity card that was issued every single day that when you entered the base. It had your weight on it, and yeah, they would pretty much weigh you every time you would enter the base. Now, Elvis Costello said that, I always call him Elvis Costello. Thomas Costello claimed that he worked with these aliens. Sometimes you would have to, because the Greys and Reptilians, according to him, had their own little living spaces, and sometimes either a worker would accidentally wander there. He would have to go there and barter with the aliens, saying, hey, can you please release Roger? Like, he didn't mean to go in there by accident. He actually said he had to learn a alien language. He had a reptilian that he would talk to, and this reptilian would always make fun of him. According to him, he would call him Leader Costello, but in a sarcastic way. And he worked there for months on months. He said he saw alien tech, he saw greys and reptilians and all that. But then he said that there was a hall called the Nightmare Hall, where mental patients were kept, people that had pretty much mental illnesses. And anytime he would go into the elevator, go down this floor or anywhere, there was an announcement saying, please do not talk to these people. They're here on their free will, and they're undergoing experimental treatments, so please do not talk to them. But one day he's just watching the cameras, and a patient flags him over. So Thomas goes over, looks at him, starts talking to him. He says, listen, I was kidnapped. I was a runaway. Here's my name. Look me up and you'll see that I'm telling the truth. So Thomas is like, okay. According to him, he went to a cop friend of his and asked, hey, can you look this guy so-and-so's name up to see what has happened? And apparently his cop friend said, sure. Looked him up on the system. He was reported missing. He was a runaway. And this was a time where I think this was maybe when this Thomas was working on the base, maybe the early 70s or 90s, where some people could just disappear without a trace and start a new life. It wasn't like today where you have social media, you have the internet, there's ways to find missing people unless you're really careful. Now, he said, okay, this is weird. So he went back to talk to the guy, and apparently the guy was gone, and there was just a pigeon left there in the cage, or according to him. Now, he was approached by a gray at one point saying, we do not agree what's going on, and we want to bring you into the resistance, and we want to overthrow the base and change the hierarchy of things. And according to him, grays can read people's minds and control them and put false thoughts into them. And he said, if you agree, walk away. If you don't agree, you have to kill me now because I'll be found out. Those are one of the things that he claims they can do. Even the reptilians can do similar things and all that. And according to him, too, there are actually special prisons that if you astral plane into Dulce base, they could capture you and keep your essence there and lock you away. For those people who claim the astral plane into different places, like there are people that say the astral plane into Atlantis and so on. But that's a whole thing for another time. Now, he agreed and actually found out there were actually some lab workers and maintenance workers and all that worked at the base that wanted to do the same thing. So he said, okay, well, this gray approached me. He said to have a meeting with him, so I'm going to go alone. And one guy's like, no, I can't let you. You know what? I'm just going to be around the corner pretending to fix a buggy and start a golf cart. And if you need help, you just call and I'll jump out and I'll help you if you're in danger. And apparently, according to him, they planned for an overthrow the day that happened. According to Thomas, and I keep saying according to Thomas because this is all based off his quote-unquote whistleblowing paper. A Delta Force, which is special operations, which is a tier 1 special forces group within the U.S. military, came in during a shift change and arrested all the people that were in the resistance. And according to Thomas, he says, we don't know who betrayed us to this day, but one podcast, I believe the last podcast on the left, they actually covered this, which it was a fun episode to listen to. Henry's like, which is one of the co-hosts, like, it was Thomas, wasn't it? Right? And obviously, yeah, because if he could go back into work the next day after this happened, that doesn't happen. Like if you look at like coups that like recent coups that happened, anybody that is involved or connected with that person that was in charge of the coup to trying to overthrow the government and it fails, they get taken away and arrested and never seen again in some cases, or even tried on court. Like I think there was a recent coup in a country where the head of the military went to the palace and tried to arrest the I believe the president or something, and it just failed, and all his co-conspirators got arrested, including him. So that's how that works in real life. Now, Thomas claims also that he then snuck back into Dulce base. He took photos, which there is one photo around showing alien human hybrids being grown, but that was debunked to say that was taken from a movie. He said he took videotapes, he took photos, he photocopied some documents, and he made 3 copies, all to be distributed to news agencies. He gave one to a lady named Cherry Hinkle, I think, who is I think a ufologist. And then he got contacted by the government, according to him, saying, oh, hey, we know you took all our shit. We want it back. We have your family. So if you ever want to see your family again, you are going to give us back the stuff and meet us. And apparently he said, you know what? This is time for me to be single again, and just fucked off. Now, if you look up how he died, there's so many different things. One, he said he died in Mexico during an earthquake. Another one says he died in a car accident. Another one says he drowned. There's a whole bunch of things that they quote unquote claim that Thomas Costello died and all that. And I've actually looked into this whole Dulce base a bit more in theory, and the one video I found said that this was actually based off the about this guy that claimed that he was receiving alien communications from Dulce, and he wrote a book on it. He said, "Oh no, this is true." The ufologist came in and said, "Yeah, I'm with you guys. I believe in UFOs and all that." But he keeps getting laughed out of UFO conferences, which I'll actually get into on the next part of this episode with Kristen. And there, apparently, when any ufologist talks about Dulce, some, I'm not going to say all, some, they put their own spin on this story. A lot of people look at it and saying, okay, this is a disinformation. I think we'll talk about it with Kristen. There was some guy that worked for the Pentagon saying, yeah, I made this whole thing up as a disinfo agent to throw people off the scent of what was actually going on. I was part of all these projects with the Pentagon, but then the Pentagon came out saying, we have no idea who the fuck this guy is. Like, he's not, he doesn't work for us. He doesn't work for the government. He's never worked for the Pentagon at all. But he says, no, I've worked for the Pentagon. But so anyway, now for the next half, I'll be joined by Kristen, like I said before, and we'll be talking a bit more about this, the UFO phenomenon and Dulce base. And you'll be jumping into maybe partway through our conversation. And I hope you guys enjoy. And and I'll be joining you back after the interview with Kristen. So stay tuned.
Oh, you're telling me all new information here. The extent that I know of Dulce Base and the weird stuff purported to be taking place beneath it is has to do with Richard Doty, which you might mention later, so I won't go into that. But that is the extent that I know of it. And he had some pretty weird stuff to say about it too. And I understand what you're saying when you say not so sure about the wackadoodle stuff.
Richard Doty was a ufologist, I believe. I came across him, but I'm not too sure about him.
He worked for the government. There's a whole story about how he not brainwashed, but tricked a fella into who was claiming he was seeing UFOs in the area and like providing video evidence. And he tricked him to like keep it coming with the information and like playing into his belief that the aliens were coming and you had to prepare. And the guy ended up like going, kind of having a nervous breakdown and barricading him in his house and blah, blah, blah. And Richard would come out later and basically admit, I did this. I lied to this guy, blah, 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 blah. But I'm totally on your guys' side. I'm totally a ufologist. I'm totally like, yeah, it's real. And so he's kind of like, so people don't trust him now because they worry that, you know, he fed into this other guy's paranoia and maybe true beliefs, maybe not. Maybe this stuff happened, maybe it didn't. And he's just still kind of doing that to the wider masses, that he's just a liar and like a double agent. But yeah, you can see him. I mean, I think he still goes to conventions and does, you know, speech things and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So he claims to be true, you know, truthful. But I don't know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think he got laughed out of a UFO conference once because he was trying to give a speech, and they're just like, I think, booing him and all that, and he just like stormed out. Like you said, like people are like, oh, he's a disinfo agent and all that. I think he also claimed to work on another project with the Pentagon. I think it was Project Stargate. I'm not sure if it was him, but then he came out saying, yeah, I worked on this project, blah, blah, blah. And the Pentagon's like, no, he didn't. Like, we have no record of him. And he's like, oh, yes, I did. So it's like he said, she said kind of thing between the Pentagon and Richard Doty. But according to Costello, a lot of his time there was actually prisoners there. And according to him, when he was on the elevators going to each level, because apparently you have to stop at each level, elevators don't go straight down. You have to have like a special key card to access every single level. And you can't go down to the basement because I believe that's where the Greys hang out and that's their space. He kept hearing announcements saying, okay, don't talk to the prisoners. They're here for mental health problems. We're just treating them and don't talk to them. So apparently, according to him, one day he was just looking at the cameras and he noticed that one guy was just waving him down and giving him signals. So he went to talk to him and he's like, hey, listen, I was taken against my will. I was kidnapped. here's my name. Look him up. Look me up. So he said that he gave his name to a cop buddy, and a cop buddy looked him up, and it came back to a missing persons case. And
Whoa.
when he went back to the cell to say, hey, like, okay, I believe you, there's no one there. It was just a bird, apparently, according to him. Now, he kept working there. He said, I believe in the interview, a girl named Anne, I forgot her last name, that quote unquote interviewed him and has all this stuff that he gave her, which I'll get into later. She asked, okay, like if you see grays and aliens, do you see any Freemasons down there? Because according to some conspiracy thought, there's a level of Freemasonry that you get so high that you can talk to grays and reptilians and all that. And he's like, oh, well, that's a loaded question. I'm not going to answer it. So he kind of avoided that. And just to show like what type of wackadoo this whole theory is. Now, jump to him working there. A couple of scientists pulled him aside into these special tunnels because, according to him, the Greys can read your mind and your thoughts. And they went into these special tunnels that they couldn't like hear anything or whatever. And they're like, listen, we want to overthrow the base. We want to free these prisoners. What these alien human hybrid experiments are wrong. We want you to join the resistance. And Thomas is like, yes, you know what? I'm down. I agree with you. And apparently Pig Latin became the secret language and weapons for the resistance because the Greys didn't understand it and they don't have any emotions, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go up to a Grey and just spout gibberish like, Classar, wash the garbage can. And he'll be like, okay, I'm washing the garbage can. And he'll take like a mop or something and start washing the garbage can.
Mm-hmm.
So now apparently another Grey approached Thomas and said, you know, we know what you're doing. A bunch of us want to overthrow the reptilians because we don't like them, and we're going to be on your side. If you agree to this, walk away. If not, kill me because I can't like live anymore. So he walked away and then jumped to, apparently they were ready to put the plan into effect, and Delta Force came in, overthrew the resistance, took everybody prisoner. And according to Costello, he's like, oh, to this day, we don't know who betrayed us and who turned their back, stabbed us in the back and blah, blah, blah. But he just wanted to work the next day. So I think it was probably him he turned on the resistance. But again, like...
A little sus. I don't know.
Yeah. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to break into this base. I'm going to steal a bunch of information. So apparently he took a picture, which is of the only proof that a lot of some people that believe this theory click onto, which is just humans in like a kind of like a pod, like they're being born again or something. But that was debunked from a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I forgot the name of it, but it was debunked right away. And he took a whole bunch of videos, a whole bunch of documents. He buried some, and he was going to send a whole bunch to reporters. And he was contacted by the government saying, hey, we have your wife and kid, so you're going to give back the information you took. And if you don't, then we're going to, kill them. And apparently he decided, you know what? This is my excuse to live a bachelor life again. And he disappeared. And the main podcast I listened to when they covered this story, and this is why I wanted to cover it, apparently if you try to look up how he died, it's a whole bunch of different things. Some say he died of a heart attack. Another say he died in an earthquake in Mexico. Another say he died he drowned. And if you try to look up Thomas Costello in any military base, which people have tried to do, they have not been able to find him.
Whoa.
So this story, to me, is not real. This is one of the reasons why I'm on the fence with UFOs. I know I splurted a whole bunch of information to you.
That was a lot. Yeah, it's like, what isn't happening in this area? Who isn't down there? There's like multiple, the story is there's multiple alien species and scientists and the government's involved and this Thomas fellow. And then, yeah, but I think at the bottom line of it. Like, if nobody can actually prove the existence of this guy, like that the story is born of, then yeah, that, I mean, automatic. It's a non-starter. Like, there's just nowhere to go with that.
Yeah, like a lot of people, I forgot who I was listening to. He said that a lot of some UFOologists will just latch onto this story and just put their own spin on it and just go from there.
Oh.
I believe this whole story actually was made from the Slaver Mysteries. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. A guy wrote in a whole bunch of stories to a UFO magazine, claiming that he received signals from Dulce, alien signals from Dulce. He seen UFOs flying over Dulce, and he kept writing in saying, "Oh yeah, there's alien human hybrid experimentations going on, and this is what's going on." And apparently, this story just blossomed from there.
Yeah. There's so much lore that comes from Dulce. It's ripe for conspiracy. And it's ripe for people's imaginations. All they have to do is just hear one of these stories, and if their minds are already kind of primed to believe one, that the government is hiding something and shady and against us, and like working with alien beings, and two, that you do in fact believe that aliens are real and that they are here and that they do not have good intentions. Like, this place, it kind of births its own stories. It's like ripe for action for that, as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like, if you look at Area 51, the whole Roswell incident, or aka Corona incident, because that's where the crash happened. Excuse me. A lot of stories have spawned from there, Area 51. Like, if you look up, there's actually a very famous phone call that happened on Coast to Coast AM with the late great Art Bell, where a guy called in saying, I worked at Area 51. I smuggled out a tape of an alien interview. And if you actually look it up, you can actually find the actual guy that got a hold of the tape originally and brought it to, I believe he brought it to I forgot the ufologist he brought it to. And he convinced this guy to do an interview who took the tape and who was an employee of Area 51. And the guy's like, no, I want my identity covered. I want my voice changed. So it's like the interview is just a shadow of a man and him just talking with like that voice changer voice. And if you watch the tape, it's just like them talking to an alien, and the guy's like, how come there's no sound? He's like, oh, well, I took out the sound because I don't want the employees who are in that room to be identified, but this is what's going on. And when he called in to George Norrie's Art Bell's show, he called from an unknown location, and he wanted his voice to be altered too, and he was very, very nonchalant with things. So like stuff like that breeds, like you say, legends and lore. And there's always some guy that says, oh yeah, I'm a high ranking general and I've done all this stuff and I've talked to aliens, but when you try to prove it, you can disprove it. Like I forgot the guy's name who said he was part of a group of 7 individuals that were working with UFOs, and he was a high ranking military officer. Then when he died and his kids went through his stuff, they found all these papers to be fake that he had. So again, I'm like, I don't know where you are with UFOs, but on me, that's why I'm on the fence with this. And stories like this, when it comes out, it's like, okay, like this is just so fantastical. Like, this can't be real.
Right. I'll say, going through, I am convinced that they are real, that they are here. Like, I did a whole conclusion episode about like what I think they are, what I think they're about, what they're doing, why not everybody sees them. So if anybody wants to tune into that, it's season 5 of my conclusion episode. I won't give it away here, but I am convinced, not because of these types of stories. Like, these types of stories, there's so many holes in them. There's no way to verify a lot of the information, and they may or may not be true, but I don't know that. I can't know that, but I base my belief on kind of verifiable stories. I put a lot of stock into people like David Grush and the Tic Tac incident, like those folks who came, Fravor, who came forward, were willing to put their reputations and careers all on the line in congressional hearings. They were willing to do that. And I was already kind of like leaning more towards belief before that ever happened. That happened in the middle of my season. It was crazy to kind of watch it unfold in real time. But it's because when members of the military or members of the police force or members of the government come forward with a claim like this, it holds quite a bit more gravity, because you have to consider, and not everyone, not all of them, just because you're a member of the Army, it doesn't mean you are always a truthful person and you have good intentions. That's not what that means. But when hundreds of them across the board are coming forward with this claim, and you have to understand how hard they have worked, the hoops they have had to jump through to get to where they are, that should tell you like the gravity of like what they have to lose. And knowing that a lot of them never wanted to come forward, they didn't want to, but they were encouraged to because there was something to their stories. So taking all that into consideration, that is why I fall on the side of the fence that I do believe. I believe them. I haven't personally seen a UFO or met an alien, but I believe them to be real. I believe something is up there flying around. So we may not understand what it is, but something is happening, because I don't think these folks are all lying.
No, that's actually a really good point. Like a while back, a former Canadian defense minister actually stood up in Parliament and gave a speech saying that he believes in UFOs, that we are in contact with them, and he just went on this. I don't know what exactly he said, but he just pretty much went on the record, because Canadian Parliament, we have two of them. I believe this was in Ottawa. Because it's recorded on national TV, so he went on, like you said, he went on the record saying, "Hey, like, we're talking UFOs and all that." And I believe he became a laughingstock because he decided to stand up and say, yes, we're talking UFOs. We have their technology, we're reverse engineering it, and we should come on the record. And there's a whole disclosure that's happening now within the US. I don't know if it's happening here in Canada, but a lot of Air Force pilots are coming forward and saying, yeah, we're flying on missions and we saw some unknown stuff flying around us. We have no idea what the heck it was, but we wrote a report on it and we were ordered not to talk about it again.
Yeah.
So, like you said, there's a lot of people that are willing to go on the record and put their careers on the line. Like there are credible UFO abductee stories, like Betty and Barney Hill. That's a very famous one. I forgot the guy that he was a logger and
Travis
he got abducted. Yeah, he got abducted, and I believe it was Philip Glass, the guy that was a huge skeptic, kept trying to debunk his story. He actually, him and this Philip Glass were, I believe it's him, did an interview together, and he said, I caught this man lie after lie after lie. But again, you have people that come out saying, yeah, this is what happened to me, and then you have other people saying, trying to debunk them, but but when you get to the point where you can't debunk it, it might be real, right?
Yeah. And like, Philip Glass, back then, and I guess the equivalent of him today would be Mick West. And I have read some of Mick West stuff. He's very succinct. He's a very good, like, just speaker, putting it into words. And I still don't like him. I don't like him, but because he's the level of skeptic that, it's good to be skeptical, like open-minded and skeptical. And that's what that means. To be skeptical is to be open-minded to, it could be, but I haven't seen the proof yet. But there's this level of skepticism, like Philip, where even if you've got all of the proof, it still can't be real, because it can't be real. It can't. right? Because it doesn't fall in your like view of reality. It just
Yeah.
doesn't fall there. And then back to your point about folks coming out and like people becoming laughing stocks and putting their careers on the line. Like there is still that stigma, and I think it's thanks to people like Philip and like Mick West. There is still such a heavy stigma with this stuff that would convince someone not to come forward with their story, is convincing people not to come forward with their story still. But yeah, thanks to that, and they have such large audiences, they have such a massive effect on people. And like Mick West is somebody that a lot of people they'll only go to Mick West. If Mick West says no, it's not real because it can't be real, then okay, that's it, we're done. But I remember the Canadian government official you're talking about. That was just recently. That was just last year, right?
I think it was. Yeah, I was trying to look it up on my phone, but yeah, I thought it was a while back. But yeah, I can't remember his name. Oh, that's my phone going off. That's my wife. But yeah,
she's like, "You're speaking too fast."
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. But again, to your point, like again, you have a lot of. I got to turn my phone on silent. There we go. Yeah, so again, to your point, there's a lot of people that if this person says the sky's not blue, then they say, okay, the sky mustn't not be blue. So there's a lot of that. But yeah, so that's kind of like all I have for the episode. I'd like to thank you again for coming on the show. I know we had a bit of scheduling issues and all that, but thanks again so much for coming on.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah. Also, you want to tell people where you can find your podcast?
Sure. So you can find the Paranorm Girl podcast on all podcasting platforms. I also do visual versions of my episodes over on YouTube. Also find that at ParanormGirlPod. And I think that's it. That's it.
Yeah. So, and also you do a live show with two other people too?
Yes. Thank you so much for reminding me about that. I always forget to push it, and then you call cut, and I'm like, shoot.
Yeah.
Yes. So I, along with the hosts of the Black Cat Report and Life Beyond 6 Feet, the founder of RKB Paranormal, we have begun a brand new show. It is called Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen, and we air live once a month. It's always the first Saturday of the month, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, and we cover a whole array of topics. Our last one in May, we talked about afterlife communications, had some really great stories and write-ins, and we just it was a really touching episode. If you want something more funky than that, try the one before. We've done strange lights, haunted electronics. Now we have a new one coming up that is going to air June 1st, and this one's going to be a little bit different for any Art Bell fans in your audience. You're going to know what this is. We are presenting our version of Truth or Trash, which was an old classic segment of Art Bell's. Basically, we're inviting anybody to come on, be our caller, participate in this. You're going to tell us a story, and it's either going to be the craziest thing that has ever happened to you in your life, or you are going to lie your face off to us. And then it is up to our audience who's in the chat. We'll give them a couple of minutes to kind of decide, well, is it truth or trash? What's going on here? They'll call it, and then the caller will tell us if we are right or not. If we are wrong, we got a drink. It's a drinking game. It'll be fun.
Oh.
It's very interactive. It's very different than what we usually do. Not going to be much in the way of paranormal. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we encourage anyone to come on and participate. And yeah, we'll see you all there.
Oh, that's awesome. Hopefully I can check that out. And for everybody, give her a listen. She has some awesome episodes. You did a really cool Bigfoot one, which I kind of enjoyed because like when I was a little kid, I was a huge Bigfoot believer, but I really enjoyed that episode too. So, yeah, thanks again for coming on. And guys, if you want to give her a follow, please do. She's an awesome podcast. You can find my links below in the description. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I do have a TikTok, but I have nothing on there. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in to my very first UFO/guest episode. And don't forget to stay unusual, my friends. So at the end of the episode, I forgot to tell Kristen my unusual fact of the day, so I'm just putting it in here right now. I think she'll actually enjoy this one. So the term UFO was first used in 1947. The term flying saucer was, the flying saucer report by the pilot Kenneth A. Arnold was given the term UFO, or stands for unidentified flying object, was used to describe any aerial objects that was seen but not identified. So meaning if, like I said in the episode, when a pilot is flying a mission and they know there's no other aircrafts around and they see a weird glowing light or a strange type of object that's flying around, some pilots reported this object flying around them. I believe during Project Blue Book, there was a pilot, a World War II pilot, that was flying a patrol, and he actually engaged a flying UFO, unidentified flying objects. I don't know if it's true or not, I believe, but reports like that. So anytime a pilot files a report, they put in was flying patrol at such and such time when it came upon a UFO. So that's my unusual fact of the day. And again, thanks guys for listening, and don't forget to stay unusual, my friends.